Hello again, team. This is Phil with Phil Shomo Coaching. Welcome to another edition of the podcast. Super glad that you've joined me today. If you've not yet subscribed to the channel, I would love for you to do that. Just click on that subscription there on either YouTube or the podcast channel that you're listening to this on. And I will be really, really thankful for that. I've got some exciting stuff coming up for sure that you're not going to want to miss. I cannot wait for you to hear some of the interviews that we've got coming up and some of just some amazing content. Today I'm very excited because I had the chance recently to sit down and talk to Jay Henley. And Jay is a PGA club professional. He works out of the Canongate Club in Sharpsburg, Georgia. And Jay's a guy that I've been getting to know since last fall. He's become a good friend and a guy that I really, really have a lot of respect for. I was really excited to interview Jay because there's an interesting angle that club pros have on the game of golf, but also just on the athletic world in general. Club pros engage and instruct and teach and train and encourage all different levels of players. They'll be working with very young kids in camps, and Jay does a lot of kids camps. These kids are just learning the game, just being introduced to the game. So Jay's focus there a lot of times is just making it really fun, trying to just engage their playful fun side and really finding ways to teach the game that aren't just super hard, but is just really enhancing the fun. Then he's got a little bit older kid players, junior players that are at varying stages. Some of his juniors, I know at Canongate, even up through the high school ages, are some of the very, very best players in Georgia and the Southeast. So he's also working with people in that space and engaging with them. He's also got recreational golfers, amateur golfers at all different stages who are older, some just taking up the game, some who are very good, some who are scratch or better. And he's running events as well as teaching and instructing, and just that sort of holistic framework for how a club pro operates within the game of golf, I think is just a very fascinating angle. I love learning from Jay, and so my emphasis on forever learning in this podcast just made a lot of sense to have Jay on. I think you're going to get a lot out of this. He's just a fun guy, and he really shares some very interesting tidbits. I want you to especially pay attention to what Jay talks about in regards to instruction and how instruction in the driving range, or sort of the laboratory, as I call it, in that setting, how he helps to bridge the laboratory closer into the arena of competitive golf environments. And he actually does that in the way he balances his instructions for his members. I think it's just fantastic insights, as well as just a life journey that is full of hope, optimism, dreams, ups and downs, navigating challenges and difficulty. I think this is an interview you're going to get a lot out of, and I'm excited for you to hear it. So let's listen to Jay Henley. All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Phil Shomo podcast. It is so good to have my special guest today, Mr. Jay Henley. Jay, welcome.
Hey, thank you, Phil. I appreciate you having me on today.
It is fun to have Jay. Jay and I got to know each other a little bit last fall. And Jay is a PGA Professional member at Canongate Golf Club in Sharpsburg, Georgia. He's the assistant pro there. And Sharpsburg, for those of you that don't have any idea, just south of Atlanta, a little ways hot Atlanta right now.
Hot
Jay?
Atlanta. Yes, sir.
As they say. So like I said, Jay and I met last fall. A young professional that I've been working with for quite a while is a member. Really kind of grew up at Jay's club, and I was there for an event. I think the first time we met was an event. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah, it was men's club championship.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
I stopped in to watch the guy I was working with play a bit that day, and Jay and I met. And I knew right out of the gate, man, I was going to like this guy. You're an easy to like dude, man.
Thank you, Phil. You too, man. It's been a good journey, that's for sure.
It has been. Jay and I have become friends, spent some time together, and Had some good conversations, and just have found that I know I get enriched every time we get a chance to talk. So I'm really looking forward to this. Tell everybody a little bit about your background. Where you grew up, how you got introduced to the game. Maybe a little
Yeah,
bit about your progression in golf to where you are now.
yeah, absolutely. Me and my dad started playing golf when I was 5 years old. So I've been playing for. Well, I'm 39 years old now, so you can do the math on that. But yeah, I've been playing for a long time. I had a little bit of baseball background growing up as a kid, and was a pretty good baseball player. And moved. That was in Savannah, Georgia, and moved to Griffin, Georgia, where I met a few of my friends that played golf. Played a lot of golf in high school, and tried to get back into baseball in high school, but lasted 1 year and jumped right back into golf in high school. So so right out of high school, got into the PGA program, passed my playing ability test at a young age, and got through the business school at the age of 23. Graduated,
Wow.
elected to membership in 2003 with the PGA of America. And basically, I'm trying to think back. In '03, I was down at Sea Island, down at Ocean Forest Golf Club for about 4 years, and taught golf there. And I was at University of Georgia Golf Course for 2 years after that, and that actually gave me more of a teaching perspective at the University of Georgia Golf Course. So that's
Very
kind of
cool.
where I started to really hone in on my teaching skills at UGA. And of course, I had two kids about that time, and got out of the business and started selling air conditioners with Train here in Atlanta, and did that for about 8 years. And I enjoyed it. I met a lot of great people, but all the roads kept leading back to getting back in the golf business. So fast forward to about 4 years ago, I'm in Panama City Beach, Florida, and ended up becoming an instructor at Bay Point Golf Club down in Panama City Beach, and hooking up with Tony Ruggiero, who a lot of folks know, I think, on
Oh
tour
yeah,
as the Dewsweeper.
the Dewsweeper. Yep,
Yeah, and I think he's actually does some podcasts as well. I think
he
he's
does.
the
I
tour
I
coach. Yeah,
I'm a regular listener.
yeah, I listen to him as well. So yeah, like, I think Tony has been a big influence on
Mm,
my teaching life. I've definitely learned more from him, and through the golf business, you really meet a lot of different golf pros, a lot of different people, and there's golf pros, I think, out there that are very operational minded, that know the business really well. But then you run into folks in the business that really are teachers of the game, and Tony is a teacher of the game.
yeah.
And so I think that's where I basically learned, my teaching philosophy. And without a teaching philosophy, you've got to have a teaching philosophy when you're teaching. And I've been able to do that in the last few years, and I think that's really helped me out. So
Well, I'm really excited to talk to you today. I mean, we've I've talked about a number of different things, but I don't know if I've ever picked your brain on some of the topics I want to get into today. So,
yeah,
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 this is gonna be fun for me. I believe that success and failure and experience really leaves like a trail of breadcrumbs if you go back and look at them. And there's always an opportunity to learn in those kinds of conversations. And so, I want to learn from some of the breadcrumbs, some of the mile markers, maybe another way to say it, that have been part of
right.
part of your journey. So, just let's just start. Just tell me a little bit about what you now. You've been in the swing instructor game for a while. You've had some amazing experiences. I mean, from Sea Island to Georgia to down with Tony. I mean, those are those are some elite areas in the golf
Yeah,
world. So,
yeah.
so what's something you really enjoy about swing instruction now that maybe is different than what you thought when you first started out? Like you didn't actually know you would enjoy some part of it like you kind of do now? What comes to mind in that space?
Yeah, just learning about your students, and you don't want you don't want that one and done kind of
Mm.
situation where you get a student that come in for a 911 golf lesson, right? And I like to dig a little deeper and ask some questions, try to figure out, really who they are as a person, how they learn things.
Mm.
I had a guy this morning, just asking the right question. It was so funny. I've never met the guy before. I'm giving him a lesson 8 o'clock this morning, and asking the question. He's a big LSU. He played baseball for LSU, and the very first thing I see this morning is he's driving. Like he's hitting drivers about 3 foot off the ground, and I told him, I said, let's look at this for a second. Like, I want you, let's get you more of a better spine tilt, you know, and I want you to think like you're hitting a home run, because he told me that he hit more home runs at LSU than a lot of folks. And
Well, all right.
so, so I'm like, you've got to hit this ball on the upswing. And so he ends up, hitting the ball on the upswing, and you would have thought we had, struck gold, right? So like, those are the moments as a teacher that you live for, and
Well,
it's pretty cool.
that is awesome. So just so everybody's paying attention here, just to put a little feather in Jay's cap, it's a Georgia man through and through. And this man discovered an LSU man, and you went
Right?
ahead and did the whole lesson. You didn't kick him off the.
I did, wearing my Georgia hat and everything.
You're a man of integrity and character, my friend.
You got it.
I love it. So I love that. I love that idea that it's really the connection individually, and it's learning not only what their tendencies are, which I think most instructors try to do that, but you really learn. What you gave us just an illustration of is how to really communicate in a way that makes sense to their experiences. Yeah. And with
Absolutely.
that guy, you found a connection with something he's had success at, which
Right.
registered with him. That's so good. At what point did you really, you gave us some of the background, and I know you played golf growing up and all. At what point did the swing instructor path become an option for you, or an attractive option? And was there somebody at that point, at that early stage, that was like instrumental in this becoming the path you were going to take?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do have a few of them. There was a gentleman, an older gentleman back in the mid '90s. His name was Bobby Moody, and he was a club pro from Westchester Country Club up in Westchester, New York. And I worked at this country golf course out in the middle of nowhere growing up, as a cart attendant. And Bobby Moody was a guy where he either liked you or he didn't. And fortunately, he liked me. And he would give me lessons on the range. And he never asked for any money.
Wow.
And he had interest in what I was doing. And he could see the potential in me. And so Bobby Moody, for sure, I talk about him a pretty good bit, but he's definitely an inspiration to me. And I would love at some point to do that one day when I get older and I'm able to do that, be able to find maybe some kids that maybe are less fortunate, that don't have a golf course to go to, that I can help bring a dream to. That'd be really cool.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Very, very cool. I'll circle back. I wrote down Bobby Moody because I'm going to ask you later about Bobby a little bit more. I love that space. We'll save that for just a few minutes. As you know, Jay, from the conversations we've had, and even conversations I've had with you and a player you're instructing and stuff, my focus is what I call it on the human skills. I kind of borrow that language from Pia Nilsson and Lynn Marriott out at the Vision 54 program, and been able to be connected with them a bit. recently, and I just love that language, the human skills, the stuff like handling pressure and managing emotions and adapting and adjusting and focus and concentration, all that stuff outside of the what you really specialize in, the swing mechanics and technique stuff. So, but when you've been around golf a long time, you've played, you've worked with people, you've seen a lot of high level professionals, and you've seen a lot of high level instruction. And when you think about that human side, what's something that comes to mind about the human side of golf that you see differently now than maybe you did when you were young, when you were earlier in the game and you were trying to figure the game out and master the game and all that? What's something at this point that, as you look backwards, is a lot more 2020 vision than it was at the time, that relates to that whole side of how we manage ourselves and deal with us on the golf course?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. I think maturity obviously has a lot to do with it. I feel like I'm probably a little bit more patient out on the golf course now than I was 20 something years ago. I remember playing some junior golf back in the day, and if I started out double bogey, triple bogey, I'd throw my hands up in the air and I was done, you know. And I think as you get older, get a little more wisdom about you. You know, you may have a double bogey or a triple bogey, but I also know that if you hang in there, you know you're going to get some putts that are going to roll in from 40 feet, and you're going to get it back. You know, and I wish that was something that I learned back 20 something years ago.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I also I think details are good in this game, but I also think it can hinder someone's ability as well.
Mm.
And you know, I'm not a detailed person. I think I figured that out, you know, through my 20 something years. And right now, as being an adult, like I feel like that's one of my weaknesses is the detail portion of it. And I think when I could finally figured out that I wasn't a very detailed person and just kind of like freely, when we're still talking about golf here, but just freely swing the club,
yeah,
and not be so detailed about things. I think
yeah,
it really, you know, I think it really opened up a whole new avenue for me.
yeah.
It really
I
did.
love that, man. I find a lot of insight into that awareness. It feels to me like, let me roll this by you, and then I want you to respond to this from your own experience. So it feels like in many ways golf is fascinating because the way we learn it, whether it's instruction or time on the driving range or working with swing aids, that stations we set up or pool noodles or stuff we strap on ourselves or whatever. It's almost like the learning and the practicing is so complex with
Yeah.
so many things to be aware of, think about, try to stop doing, try to start doing, that it's like we're baking in this level of complexity into our minds. But on the golf course, we actually need simple, clear, committed kinds of thoughts as opposed to the complexity. So what's your sense? Like even today, you were teaching this, your beloved LSU fan.
Right.
So what? How would you, if a player said to you, "Man, I love all the teaching. You've given me so much to work on, so much to think about, but I don't know how to like think about all that when I'm out on the golf course actually playing." Like, how do you help them navigate between the complexity of practice and improvement and what's really needed is more of the simplicity on the
Yeah.
golf course? It seems like the Grand Canyon to me between those two things.
No, it really is. You know, halving up a 1 hour lesson has helped me out a lot. You know, I mean, 30 minutes on the practice tee, you know, you call that block practice
Yeah.
in this world. And, you know, you want to spend 30 minutes practicing whatever you're trying to do. And then you take the other 30 minutes and you apply it out on the golf course.
Okay.
I think there's so many golfers, really good golfers today that, if you look at their TrackMan numbers, well, my face to path is plus 2.3, or, none of that to me is, it's great information, but let me take you over on an uphill lie with some rough. And, what are you going to do about that? I don't think a plus 2.6 on the TrackMan is, that's not going to help you out. So
Yeah.
you gotta get out there and put golfers in different situations, because when you play 18 holes of golf, there you get every situation known to man, or at least I do.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah. Do you, I I'm trying to remember. I think we talked about this at one point. You're trying to spend time with people you're instructing, like on the course,
Right.
correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you, is that what the split is? Like, are you spending 30 minutes on the range and then actually trying to get on the course with them at the same time, or is those different?
Yeah. Yeah, it's more of a caddy. It's more of a caddy thing. I like to get out there for 30 minutes and caddy for them, and kind of put them in a situation of, this is what I would do in this
Wow.
particular situation. Yeah, I think it's been a great addition. I don't see many instructors out doing that. And it's all
Right.
about differentiating yourself from everyone else. And
Yeah.
I think it works well with the student. And you can get out away from the practice tee and get to know them a little bit better too. I mean, they tend to open up a little bit more to you, and they start asking you some different questions, I think, that they wouldn't ask you on the practice tee.
Man,
So
Jay, to me, that's where the future of the game is in instruction. I mean, it is, so much of the challenge is in golf that's not really like any other sport. Like, we primarily practice in an environment that is not where we compete.
right.
And the difference between, it'd be like a baseball player having, their dad toss the wiffle ball with the wiffle ball bat, like underhand from 10 feet in the backyard, and they're trying to hone their swing in, and then they step in the in the box
Right.
with a live arm throwing 100, and they
Yeah.
can't figure out why their swing's not as good as it was in the backyard. Like that, that's almost what we're doing in
Right.
golf,
That's
right?
exactly right. Yeah. That's
So
it.
I'm so excited when I hear an instructor say, no, like, I am literally creating a bridge across that chasm. That's my goal with the people I'm instructing. I want them to walk across that bridge. So let's keep pushing a little bit into that. I think all that is the mental, that's the human side. That's the
Right.
adaptability and adjusting and seeing yourself not only in a sterile environment, but in an environment where you got one swing to pull something off, right?
Yeah.
So as you've worked with golfers and as you've thought about your own golf back in the day, and I know you still play a lot at a very, very high level. So what's something you see golfers really struggling with when they're under pressure that maybe doesn't show up as much of a differentiator when
Right.
they're just playing casually, when they're just relaxed, when they're just
Yeah.
out having fun? And I know I was actually there, for your club championship. You run club championships, and your members, at your club, man, they want to win that thing.
They want that hardware.
They
Yeah.
want that hardware.
Absolutely.
And so you hear a lot of that, like, man, I was playing so great and on the back nine, or so what from your perspective, as you're listening to golfers day in and day out and you're observing, what is it that's happening under pressure? What are the tendencies under pressure that maybe a golfer wouldn't even realize when they're just playing a casual round or they're just out playing for fun?
Yeah. No, that's a great question. I tend to do it. You're looking ahead. You're looking ahead 3 holes, right? And it's so hard to stay in that moment. And keeping the expectations real is
Yeah.
also good. I know that if I'm out playing just casual rounds of golf and shooting 74, then, like it does me no good to go play in a tournament that you got to shoot 65 to win it. So it's just having that expectation level and knowing your game, and just staying in that moment. And
that's so hard.
And I wish I could. Yeah, I wish I had some big answer. I'm still trying to find that secret. Right. I mean, it's tough. But I think the more you put yourself in those situations, the more comfortable you get. And I'm a firm believer in that. And I love the mental aspect of the game. Even though I'm an instructor, day in and day out, I do love that mental part of, like what was going through your head, coming into a stretch, and you haven't double bogeyed a hole in 72 hole, 71 holes, and then you double bogey one.
That's right.
Like, what were you thinking about those 15 minutes of the hole, right?
That's right.
But yeah.
It's
very interesting.
It is. It's the fascination of the game, right? It is, there's the critical parts with the technique and the skill and the swing. And then there's all that other time we're out there in that 4 to 5 hour round where we're dealing with ourselves one way or the other. We're just dealing with ourselves. I could keep heading down that road for quite a while. I love talking with you about that, and we've had fun talking about that since we got to know each other. Let me just let people get to know you a little bit better. I got some I got some questions I'm curious about. So when you think about for you, could be golf, could be life, who would fall into the hero status? Who would be a hero maybe when you were young or as you developed that you would look at and you would say, man, that person was really inspiring to me?
Wow. Golf or life?
Could be either one. What comes to mind?
I mean, my dad has been inspirational to me in many ways. Just like I said, he introduced the game to me. He's given me the spiritual belief of God, and that's helped me get through a lot of battles that I've faced in life.
Really cool.
I think when you walk when you walk the face of the earth for 40 years, you experience a lot of faults and you experience a lot of downs. I mean, you experience a lot of ups too.
Yeah.
But you gotta have faith. That there's a higher source, and that's God. So
absolutely, man.
Yeah.
And that's something I love having in common with you, man. I love that. Love that. So, man, that was a great answer. I would assume a lot of golfers would, hopefully a lot of golfers would see that hero status in their fathers. I think that's fantastic. So, the tagline for my business is adversity to advantage. And because I really believe this idea that the more you're adapting to things that aren't perfect on the course and in life, but we'll just stick with golf. So, so when you're able to adapt and be flexible and not be as affected by things that go wrong as most of the competition is, I think that's a huge advantage. I think having the ability to see obstacles and hurdles as difficult, maybe even frustrating, but as something that is part of the journey, and dealing with it can end up actually working well for you. So. Yes. And this again could be golf or life, either one. But one of the things I love asking guests is to just think about their own journey as an example for like golfers that I work with. And when I say, in reflecting back, what's something that at the time in your journey was hard? Maybe even felt like a failure, felt like a step backwards, felt like you got knocked down, knocked out, knocked off, whatever. And yet, as you reflect back on it now, you see, wow, that may have been a bad thing, terrible thing, may have been a hard thing. But as you reflect back on it now, you say, that really helped shape and form who I am. That actually has become an important asset, an important advantage to my life, when at the time I couldn't have believed in anything good would come out of it.
Yeah. Yeah, man, wow. In 2005, there was a short stint for a couple of years where I worked for U.S. Kids Golf in Atlanta, and I had the opportunity to go down. That was my first experience at the PGA show in Orlando.
Oh,
And
okay.
at that time, you may know John Godwin. John Godwin is first tee advocate over in the Columbus, Georgia area, and the PGA had come up with a new national award at that time, and it was the PGA Junior Golf Leader and that was in '05. And I remember John Godwin getting that award, and he was a part of the U.S. Kids Golf Foundation in Atlanta. So we all were, I remember the whole U.S. Kids Golf was there to see that award. And,
Wow.
man, I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I mean, it was like being at the Academy Awards, right? I mean, you had a live band up there, and John went up and did a great job with his speech. And I remember walking away from there, and I remember going, man, like, I really would love to be a junior golf leader like that, right? And that was in '05. And 2 years later, I get out of the golf business. I go through, whatever it may, divorce. You go through all these life things. But I'm sitting here today, and I feel like I have a really good junior golf following.
Yeah,
I
you
feel like I've
do.
made a big impact on some juniors. And but you look back in '05, and that's 15 years ago. And I've had to go through a lot of stuff to get here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the thing is the track wasn't the golf business. I actually got out of the golf business for 10 years.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting in a good spot. I feel like I'm sitting in a really good spot right now where I mean, I don't think I could ever become a national junior golf leader. I mean, but how cool would that be, right?
Wow. That's such a
It'd be pretty
great, man, that's a great answer. And I didn't prep you for that at all, man. That was just from your heart, man.
cool. Yeah.
But I just want to say, I mean, to anybody that might be listening to this, to golfers that I'm working with or other people that might hear this, take what Jay says to heart, because the path doesn't make sense at the time. Sometimes the path is such a twisty, turny road that we think the door's never going to open again. We're never going to get back to the dream, the hope, the whatever it is, that like the adversity that comes our way that often feels like it's forever,
Yep.
actually in many ways becomes the ingredients of a new recipe, a new, almost like something you couldn't have figured out otherwise. And not that that's like magic, not that people that are going through hardships can just sit there and say, oh yeah, I can, this is going to be great. No, it's not
Right.
like that. But there is hope in that. There's
There
hope
is.
in the middle of that. And your answer, I think, just profoundly shows the hope, man. So thank you
Yeah.
for bringing that. Thank you for
You
bringing
got
that.
it, man. You
All
got it.
right. This is, again, I could just keep going down that path, but I want to do what I do with all my guests. I always like to do the last segment called the back nine. And
Yeah.
the Masters doesn't start till the back nine on Sunday. So I've got 9 questions. They're just kind of first thing that comes to your off the top of your head. You can expound on your answer, or you can just give an answer. Either way, you got total freedom either way. Okay.
Oh boy.
All right. So here we go. Number 1, all-time favorite athlete in golf. Who's your all-time favorite golfer?
Tiger Woods.
Tiger Woods.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Going with the front runner, man. So
I got to. I'm sorry.
I actually almost decided to ask you a question. I was just going to say Tiger or Jack, and then I thought,
Yeah.
I thought if Jay was my age, I might ask that, but he's a little bit younger than me.
Right. I hear you.
And you answered this earlier, but maybe the same answer, maybe something different. The sport other than golf that you fell in love with as a boy.
Yeah, baseball for sure. Yeah.
Baseball. And you were you living in Savannah at that point or in Griffin?
No, I was in Savannah actually.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So were you a Braves fan from birth and all that stuff?
Absolutely. Through the thick and thin, through the 80s and the 90s. The 80s were the worst, the 90s were the best.
You've seen the roller coaster at the top and the roller coaster at the bottom, haven't you?
Yes, sir. I have.
Well, I'm a Cincinnati Reds fan, so boy, do I get the roller coaster. I know how it works.
You got it.
Question number 3, hobby that you enjoy outside of golf.
Acoustic guitar. I play a little acoustic guitar.
Oh, I love that. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's cool. How long you played guitar?
Since I was about 12 or 13. You know, it's just it's something that I do before, maybe bed every night for about 20, 30 minutes. Just kind of winds me down for the evening.
Wow. That is so cool. I love that. Love it. All right. Question number 4. And the answer here might be Bobby Moody or it might be something else, but you jumped into this category earlier. So I love asking this question because I really believe that, as I've said before on this podcast, I believe that we're created to have automatic value placed within us. We're made in the image of God, made by God. Every person is somebody that matters. And I also believe that one of the ways we discover that in our life is that somebody reflects that value back to us. Somebody sees something in us and reflects it back. So I love asking people who I respect and I see are just on a good path. I love asking them, who was the person for you who saw value and potential in you? And they called it out in a way that you heard it, you saw it, and you actually started to believe it in a way that you didn't believe it before they drew your attention to it.
Yeah. A good buddy of mine, I talk to him about every night. He was my sales manager at Train, when I was selling air conditioners. His name is Jay as well, Jay Hefner. I just remember going on sales calls with him. We just ride together. We'd be in a Ford F-150 truck. We're just, going, making sales calls, right? All these air conditioning companies in small town Georgia. And we go to our first sales call and Jay's like, it's like, dude, like you're going to be a great salesman, but man, you got to lighten up a little bit, like you just got, so I don't know. I think the more I've hung around him, the more I've just kind of like, you just gotta let loose, right?
Yeah, that's so cool.
Gotta hang out. And but no, he's been a great inspiration to me the last 12, 13 years. He's definitely he has seen the potential in me, not only on the golf side, but just I think as a person. And he's been really, really inspirational to me.
I love that, man. Yeah. I love that. And I love that you're positioned in such a way that you're able to be that for the people you're instructing and the people around your life right now. And, so someday there's going to be a podcast going on and Jay Henley is going to be talked about. I believe that.
That's cool, man. Yeah, we'll see. That would be awesome.
All right. Question number 5, favorite golf course you've ever played and one you still would like to play that you haven't played. So give me 2.
Give me 2. One that I have played and one that I haven't played.
Yeah, favorite one you've played and one that is like on the bucket list, man. You really want to play it sometime.
December of 2003, I did get a chance to play Augusta National with about 12 Augusta members. That was cool.
Well, there we go.
Yeah, that was cool.
Hard to beat that.
Yeah. The back 9 of Augusta is very difficult. I thought the front 9 was great. The back 9 is very difficult. At least it is to my game.
Tends to
one
be
that
that way for most people, I think.
right, yeah. I guess the other thing is I remember growing up, you would look at the Golf Digest and you would see the father son Pebble Beach thing, right? It was a father son deal, and it was Golf Digest did a great job marketing all that, right? And I remember growing up, and I was like, that would be the coolest thing to go out and just play Pebble Beach in a father son pro-am thing, and
Oh yeah.
like I didn't grow up with a lot, but I always got what I needed, but like I guess playing Pebble Beach with my dad would be pretty cool. That'd be pretty awesome. Yeah.
Man, I've had the privilege of doing that with my two sons. I've only been there once, and I wouldn't have done it without my two sons, man. I didn't want that experience, but that with my two sons was a slice of heaven.
You got it. You got it, man.
What's a movie that always makes your list of favorite movies of all time?
Oh, I have a few of them.
Okay.
Trying to think of one that like back in the 80s, it was nothing but movies, right? That was like the movie decade. So anything 80s. Anything from an Arnold Schwarzenegger Commando movie to
there we go.
You know what I'm saying? The movies they make today is just not like the ones from the 80s and 90s. That's for sure.
The man speaks wisdom, people. All right, love it. Give me one thing. Question number 7. Give me one thing a club pro has to do regularly that most people wouldn't really think about. They wouldn't. Not that good or bad. It's just part of the club pro job that most people automatically think about instruction or running a tournament or something. But what's something that's part of your world that people like me who aren't in the club pro world wouldn't think about as much?
Oh wow! I mean the PGA of America has always talked about the PGA professional at any club, wears 100 different hats, and
right.
and it's true. There's no other. I mean, that's very true. You can go from checking in a golfer to merchandising to you may have a golf cart that's not working to you've got a member that wants that golf lesson at 2:00 in the afternoon to you may be food running something out to a member on hole 7. You may be cleaning a toilet.
Glamorous, man. Just sounds glamorous.
That's right. That's awesome. It starts. I mean, it starts bright and early. Canongate is a 36-hole private facility, and we crank out the golfers there, and I'll get there at 6:00 in the morning, and I've got 10 guys doing exercises in the parking lot. I mean, they're just waiting on me.
Ready to go, man.
So yeah, it's a very long days, but you're around what you love, and you're able to talk to some of your good friends about their rounds of golf. I mean, it's not work, when you're with that. So
that's cool. I noticed I've been there, I don't know, 3 or 4 times to your club, maybe eating lunch or just hanging out or whatever. And one of the things I noticed was how quickly the golfers who are serious about the game want to come find you when they come in from their round. They want to tell you something. They want to tell you something that happened, something that went good, something that went bad. Not what I was there. It wasn't like a complaining thing. It was like their golf experience wasn't finished until they got to talk to Jay for a couple minutes.
That's awesome. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
We got the Pomp this weekend, and I think it's over in Carrollton, and we've got quite a few of our good players at the club, and they've been blowing my phone up all day, wanting that 911 golf lesson right before the big tournament. I'm like, guys, I mean, we're not going to make a big swing change, man. I mean, I can video your swing and we can talk about it, but It's funny.
Give me the magic pill you've been withholding from me for the last 3 years,
Right,
so that
exactly.
I can take the pill tonight and win tomorrow.
Yep. But it's great because like Maddox had a great round at West Pines just the other day,
Yeah.
and
Maddox
I
is
think
the
I made
Maddox is the young man. Maddox Lytle's the young man that introduced us. That's who
he
Jay's
did
talking about.
absolutely, yeah, and and I think I commented in the Instagram post that, hey, Maddox, keep it going, man. It takes a team, right? And it does, it does. It takes a Phil Shomo and a Jay Henley and a Maddox Lytle who has all the talent in the world.
Yeah.
And when you get all those three working on all 8 cylinders, it's a cool thing, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. It's been fun to be part of that group with you, man. Love that.
It is.
Love that. Shout out to Maddox. Love Maddox.
Yep. Shout out to him.
You're a lifelong Georgia guy, and you're a sports fan. So if you were to put the Jay Henley Mount Rushmore of Georgia sports history, who are the 4 people for you? These 4 Georgia-related athletes, could be the Braves, could be football, could be the Hawks, Atlanta Hawks, could be college football, could be any space. 4 Georgia historical athletes that are on your Mount Rushmore of Georgia sports.
Ooh, yes, sir. That's a great question. Very great. Yeah.
I'm testing your Georgia sports knowledge here. So
you got it. Yeah. I mean, let's talk about that starting lineup in 1994 on the Braves, right? You got Avery, Glavine, Smoltz, Lee Brandt, all those guys were
okay,
great.
You're hedging my question now. So who are the 4? You got to pick 4 faces. You can pick them all from baseball. You can pick them from whatever.
Herschel Walker.
Well, I was just getting ready to say. If you left that off, that was going to be a rough podcast for your friends to listen to.
That's Herschel Walker. John Smoltz. I think Smoltz is, that'd be a good one. Wow. Let's see here. Davis Love the Third down at Sea Island, right?
There you go. Love that.
I mean, born through and through Georgian, right?
Yeah, love that.
Yeah, I guess these are guys that actually had to be born and raised in Georgia, right?
Could be, or could have just played on a team. Could have been.
Yeah.
However you want. It's your Mount Rushmore, man. You put whoever you want.
True, yeah. Larry Mize, Larry Mize.
Yeah, I do. Down at Columbus.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Masters winner with one of the famous shots in Masters history.
You got it. Yes,
there
sir.
you go. All right, you got your 4.
I did put Herschel in there.
You did, man. Yeah. Ooh, that would have been pretty rough. You can go back to the club tomorrow and say, "Hey, man, this guy asked me this question. Who would you put up there?" That'd be an interesting conversation around the club for a while.
Mount Rushmore in Georgia.
Mount Rushmore of Georgia athletes, Georgia sports. All right, last question. I can ask this question, and I've had people say, "Man, I just really don't know," and that's totally fine. I always love asking this question. So it's just fun for me. I don't know. Maybe it's evil fun. If a friend or a family member or a golfer at your club, somebody who knows Jay well, okay? If somebody who knows Jay well were going to do an impression of Jay so that other people might know they were impersonating you, is there a word or a phrase that you think you probably use a lot that people associate with you? Like, what word or phrase would get included in the imitation of Jay by people who know him well?
Ooh. I would have to, I don't know, you interact with so many different people every day, and that you can act a little crazy with certain folks, but then you gotta, I mean, crazy, that's for sure.
You use that word a lot.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. I,
That's awesome.
you know,
That's
and
good.
what, the last few months, that's a good word to use. That's
Yeah,
for sure.
no doubt, man. No
Yeah.
doubt about that. That is a good word to use. All right, man. Tell our listeners a little bit. How could they find you if people wanted to find you for swing instruction in that area, or if people wanted to follow you online at all? Give a little shout out to how people could track you down or pay attention, figure out how to get a hold of Jay.
Yeah. I'm at Canongate Golf Club in Sharpsburg, Georgia. Address is 924 Shaw Road, and that's Sharpsburg, Georgia, just about 15 miles south of Hartsfield Atlanta Airport. I'm on Facebook at Jay Henley Golf. That's HENDLEY, Jay Henley Golf, and I'm on Instagram as well at Jay Henley Golf. I also have an online scheduler. That's jhenleygolf.uschedule. That's the letter U, uschedule.com. And you can book an online golf lesson that way. So yeah, my phone number is 770. Yeah, phone number is 770-584-3506. I can be reached through that. If anyone's listening, I guess in the Atlanta area, I do have 3 junior camps going on this summer, and the first one was a success. So we decided to add another one at the end of this month. So
love it. What age?
Yeah.
What ages are your camps?
The first one was ages 6 to 9. We started out camp with Duck Duck Goose, so play a little Duck Duck Goose. No, but the second camp coming up next week is full, but it's ages 10 to 15, and then the third camp that's coming up in late July, and I want to say it's July 21st through the 24th. Yeah, July 21st through the 24th is open to all ages between ages 5 and 15.
Okay.
So
fantastic.
So yeah, it's great. We have a lot of fun with it.
You do a great job with it, man. You post some fun pictures of your junior golfers online. I love seeing that. Always love it. Well, Jay, this was so much fun, man. You always make me smile. You always make me laugh, and I always feel like I learn things when we talk. So, thanks so much for taking the time today, man. It was an honor to have you.
Thank you, Phil. I appreciate it.
All right, sir. We'll talk again soon. Thanks.
Have a good one, Phil. Bye.